The story starts with the boy Kazuya. He is on his way to the grocery store. Suddenly a lot of people run out of the grocery store in panic. He is bumped into someone and his phone falls to the ground. A man appeared with a knife in his hand and two little girls couldn't move because they were scared. Kazuya noticed that the two little girls didn't manage to escape in time. The man rushed towards the girls and Kazuya couldn't stop himself, he followed. He rushed towards the man with a knife in his hand. Kazuya was stabbed and bled to death trying to save the girls. The criminal ran away and the two girls cried. Kazuya couldn't believe that he was going to die now. Then Kazuya woke up in the body of Cain thinking that he was in the hospital. When he woke up he was greeted by his maid Sylvia and his mother Sarah, who were strangers to him. Cain was very confused, and when he saw in the mirror that he was in another body he panicked. Cain was confused about his new body and his mother was happy that he is awake because Cain had a fever and was sleeping for 1 week. Then his mother wanted to bring him food and Cain didn't know the two women. Cain looked at himself in the mirror again, and he realized that he had been reborn into another world. Also, he remembered his death. He couldn't believe he died, but he was glad he could save the two girls. Cain was excited about his new life and wondered if he was a boy or a girl. When he wanted to find out which gender his maid Sylvia showed up. She thought Cain had wet his pants and wanted to help him change into new pants, so Cain was embarrassed that his pants were pulled down. Then Cain was fed by Sylvia. He liked the food in the new world. When Cain was done he was treated like a baby because no one knew that he is a high schooler spiritually. Cain was able to learn a lot about his new family because he was born into a noble family as the 3-year-old Cain Silford, and he was the son of Garm and Sarah. He also had a sister Renee who was 2 years older than him. In addition, his father has a second wife named Maria and 2 older half-brothers named Jean and Alec. Also, Cain's father is a noble margrave who has his own army, and in his life now there are monsters and magic in the world. In the days that followed, he learned more about the world by Sylvia, and he was happy to be reborn into a fantasy world. He told Sylvia that he also wants to be an adventurer. Cain didn't miss his old life since he was an orphan and had no family. Then you see Cain with his family. He wanted to learn to read, and his family was impressed that he could solve math problems at the age of 3. His mother Sarah thought that Cain was a genius, and he claimed that he had learned everything from maid Sylvia. She was happy about his praise, and his father wondered why he suddenly wanted to learn to read. Then they noticed that Cain had changed since his fever, and he didn't know how to answer. Cain said he wanted to learn to read because he wanted to learn a lot about the world, and his family was happy. Also, Cain wanted to borrow books from his father to learn magic. Then Cain found out that he was too young and hadn't been baptized either. His parents told him that he would not be able to use magic until he was baptized, and that he should only read the books for now. In the days that followed, Cain taught himself magic. He was so happy and lost control when using strong fire magic. Suddenly his big sister appeared, and he thought she saw him using magic, but she only thought he was secretly learning about the outside world. So he was glad that she hadn't seen anything. In the years that followed, Cain learned a lot about the world because his sister taught him a lot about the world. Cain found out about a fluffy monster that he could also summon and couldn't wait to get his baptism to get magic power. So 2 years passed and Cain was 5 years old and he got ready for his baptism. Renee couldn't believe how cute her little brother looked in his new clothes, and they set off to the church. When they were in the carriage, Renee asked her sister what status magic was. His big sister showed him by opening a status window. Cain could see his sister's abilities and magic power. He discovered that his sister's title was Adorer of Cain, which was embarrassing for Renee. Cain said he hadn't seen anything. After that, he learned that he would receive blessings, and the blessings of gods are classified into levels 1 to level 5. Arriving at the church, Renee's baptism began, and Renee hoped that her little brother would receive many blessings. Suddenly, at the baptism of Cain, a statue was shining, and he was summoned to the gods. Cain couldn't believe that he met real gods by his baptism, and the creator god Xenom was happy to meet him. Cain couldn't believe Xenom was a god because he looked more like a cosplayer. Xenom said that as a god he can read minds, and he heard everything what he thought. Afterwards, the goddess Ryan explained that she is responsible for life and death. She told him that his death wasn't planned at all. This is how Cain learned that he had died unnecessarily because it was planned that the criminal would stumble by attacking them and the other people would have stopped him. When Cain heard the truth, he was embarrassed because he gave his life in vain. Also, the culprit was arrested as a murderer by Cain, and Cain couldn't believe how pathetic he is. Then the goddess said that because of his good deed, he got a second life and reincarnated in another world. Cain found out that they sealed his old memories, but somehow his seal was broken when he was 3 years old. Cain was not upset and thanked them for being able to keep his memories of his previous life and for being born into a loving family. Now the magic goddess Reno fell in love with Cain and gifted him her blessing. Zaymon also wanted to give his blessing to Cain, and suddenly the god of war Sarnos presented himself. He also wanted to give Cain his blessing that he got much more power. After that, the other gods also wanted to give their blessings to Cain. So Cain received blessings from all the gods and had overpowered skills like item box or identification. After that, Cain was sent back, and the creator god smiled at him and told him to check his status on his return. When Cain's baptism was over, his father Garm wanted to see his stats. Cain ran out and said that his stomach hurt, and he secretly checked his stats. Cain received blessings from all gods, and all blessings were at level 10. Cain understood why Xenom smiled at him, and Cain discovered a message from the creator god. He told him that Cain was able to disguise the status values of the gods with a creator skill. When Cain got home, he celebrated his baptism with his family, and Cain opened his status window. His father Garm couldn't believe about Cain's high stats because Cain forgot to disguise all stats. His family thought Cain was a genius, and his father was impressed, but he was also aware of the dangers. So he told Cain and everyone else in the room not to tell anyone about Cain's stats. After that, Cain went to his room and found a book about summoning magic on his bed. Cain wanted to summon a fluffy monster, and he went outside to summon a fluffy monster that he can hug. Cain unintentionally summoned a dangerous monster. Suddenly, his sister and one of her friends also showed up. The summoned monster wanted to kill them, and Cain wanted to protect his sister and her friend. Cain attacked the monster with a fire attack, but he was overwhelmed by the strong monster. At that moment, he remembered his old life and didn't want to lose again. So he teleported the monster away with a spell. Cain was able to defeat the dangerous monster and fell on the ground. The two girls cried, and Cain thought he was dying again. Suddenly, Cain realized that he wasn't hurt at all, and his sister was happy that he was healthy. Cain was also happy because he realized that he could save people in his new life. The next day, Cain did a speech to the friends of his family, and his father wanted to hear what Cain wanted to do in his future. Cain said that he wants to be an adventurer who helps many people and has many great adventures. Also, he wanted to discover the world and wanted to make a lot of friends. Cain decided to become a great adventurer, and his father supported Cain's dream of becoming an adventurer. Garm said to his son that he would hire a private tutor that teach him more about an adventure life. So Cain looked forward to learning more about this world. The next day, Cain was in his room, and he imagined how his new tutor would look like. Suddenly, Cain found out that his tutors had arrived, and he teleported himself to the roof of their estate with a magic spell. Cain fell down and landed on his new teacher Millie's breasts. Millie then thought that he wanted to be breastfed. As a result, Cain apologized for his behavior, and his butler told Cain that they are his new home teachers. Cain introduced himself to both of them, and he was happy about his new tutors. We then see Millie, who is very nervous, and introduces herself to Cain's family. Nina also introduced herself, and Cain remarked that Nina is an elf. That's how Cain got to know his new tutors, and Millie was relieved that they didn't have to speak so polite in their presence. The two adventurers were delighted to be Cain's tutors and took him outside to practice swordsmanship. Millie wanted to see Cain's skills, so he showed them his powerful sword skills. The two tutors were impressed, and Nina said that Cain is most likely stronger than Millie. Nina's words hurt Millie's pride, and she wanted to have a practice match with Cain. During the practice fight, the two couldn't believe that Cain was only 5 years old because he was way too strong. Cain told the two more about himself, and Millie was overwhelmed by Cain. So Nina wanted to teach Cain magic, and Cain said he already knows the basics. He then showed Nina his magic power, and he could use all elements. Nina couldn't believe that Cain was a beginner since he cast magic spells that only high-level magicians could use. Nina thought Cain was a genius, and the two girls learned that Cain received 2 different blessings by the gods. Millie immediately realized that Cain is already stronger than the 2 adventurer, and they can't teach him anything new. Then Cain used his item box, and the 2 couldn't believe that he also had the skill item box. Followed his tutors told him that he is on a pro level. So Cain asked if the 2 could teach him anything outside of his estate. The reason was Cain didn't know the world outside and haven't much experience. The 2 tutors agreed with Cain's idea, so they reported to Cain's father that his son was far too strong and that he would destroy everything if he continued training. Sarah was proud of her son Cain, and his father expected it before that Cain is too overpowered. Garm allowed Cain to go outside, but he said that Cain should be back in the evening. Then Cain made his way outside looking forward to his training session with Millie and Nina. Once outside, Cain should try using advanced magic to attack a giant rock. Cain cast a strong fire spell, and he caused a huge explosion. Nina couldn't believe that Cain could cast such a powerful attack. Then Millie was worried that Cain is exhausted, and they learned that Cain also had inexhaustible magical power. Cain laughed, and the 2 girls sensed a monster. Suddenly a killer rabbit appeared, and they tried to attack him, but the killer rabbit aimed to attack Cain. As a result, Cain easily defeated his first monster. Millie congratulated Cain, and Cain wanted to show his first defeated monster to his family. He summoned his item box, and Millie told him that she wants to save up some money to buy someday a magic bag. So Cain learned that magic bags worked just like his skill item box, but unfortunately they are very expensive. Then they wanted to hunt more monsters. And Nina used a search radar skill that tracked down all enemies in the area. Cain wanted to learn the skill too, and Cain then copied his skill easily. Nina couldn't believe that Cain was able to learn it by using it once. Followed, Cain immediately ran to hunt monsters. The 2 supported him and also defeated 2 killer rabbits. Suddenly a killer rabbit tried to run away, and Cain wanted to follow the monster into the forest. Millie stopped him because there are dangerous monsters in the forest. Cain learned that sometimes large herds of monsters appear and try to attack their town. Then Millie said that one day when he's older he will be strong enough to protect their town too. So Cain looked forward to exploring the dangerous forest. One day when Cain was home, he realized that defeating a few weak monsters leveled him up to level 8. He couldn't believe all the gods gifted him with cheat skills. He decided to hide his stats because he would be considered as a danger, and as punishment he would face the death penalty. In the days that followed, Cain was in town and Millie wanted to gather information by the guild. Cain was happy to see a guild house. Then in the guild house, Millie asked her friend Rudy if they had any information about powerful monsters that would be better suited for training. Rudy asked how old Cain is, but she panicked as she learned that Cain is a noble. Cain introduced himself, and Rudy remarked that Cain is a nice little boy. Then an arrogant C-rank adventurer showed up. He made fun of Millie and Nina for being D-rank adventurers. Cross then invited the 2 girls to have a beer with him, and the 2 girls declined. Cross didn't want to accept their rejection and tried to force the 2 to drink a beer with him. Cain stopped the bad guy Cross and said that the 2 didn't have time. Followed, Cain introduced himself as the proud student of Nina and Millie. Millie and Nina told Cain to run, but Cain knocked Cross to the ground when Cross tried to attack him. Cain taught him a lesson and beat him up. So Cross got angry. He then drew a sword and attempted to kill Cain. Cain dodged all of Cross's attacks with ease using his agility. The adventurer Cross didn't stand a chance, and Cain stopped his sword attack with just one hand. As a result, he threw Cross out of the guild. Also, he threatened to take down his henchmen as well. So Cain managed to save his beloved tutors Nina and Millie without any problems. The 2 thanked Cain, and they went to hunt the monsters. This is how Cain learned to use his powerful magic and experienced many happy days with his 2 tutors. After training, they always ate delicious sandwiches together and enjoyed every moment. That's where the episode ends. The link to future episodes will be available in description and in pinned down comment in comment section. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe for further updates. See you later.